Peace, love, and light to the family. It's your boy Soul Transmissions. Today, I was watching another channel that I deal with on YouTube. Very informative. The brother's name is The Real Merkabah. Merkabah. A lot of information on this channel. The brother goes in. I respect his work. He was talking about choice and the choices that we make as individuals and as a collective. Now, it automatically made me think of what Kanye said when he was like, slavery was a choice. So I just want to chime in on that because everybody got on Kanye and you know, they really went at him. And I don't know if he didn't have the time, time constraints didn't allow him to say what he really wanted to say, or if he just couldn't articulate it. But I understand what the brother was saying, and he wasn't 100% incorrect. He actually said something very real. Now, think about it. Truthfully, slavery happened for a term of at least 3 centuries. Okay? We talking about starting from the 1500s up until the 1800s. Now, during slavery, you have to understand that there were free people that were melanated, Moors, as they were termed at this period in time, even though, it means what we call today black. But it was a legal term, and it was legally the term that we were called because of the empire that was ruling at the time, which was the Empire of Morocco, which is an offshoot or a reconstruction of the culture that came out of Kemet thousands of years prior. They rebirthed it. They found the information and they rebirthed it. Okay? So these people who they call Moors, us, owned slaves in the times of slavery. They were walking around free. Natives owned slaves. They were walking around free. Some, not all. But these are people who recognized that they weren't Negro, they weren't black, they weren't colored, they weren't none of these things. They had an understanding of who they were before they got into this condition, right? Now, the condition that we remained in for 3 centuries was a choice, considering you saw others that weren't in that condition and never dawned on you why. Like, what's up with these dudes? How are they walking around? How are they owning property? How are they owning slaves? They look like me. But keep it 100. This is what we doing today. Like, blacks, so-called blacks, that's what they do today. All of these Rainbow Coalition, let's march and let's do all of it. All of these people do the same thing. They sell you back into the same nonsense. They want to give you religion instead of giving you the things that they learned in their Masonic lodge, that do as thou wilt is the whole of the law. Okay, you can do whatever you want. There's a cause and an effect. There's a consequences for whatever choice you make. And that's just the basic deal of it. Truth be told, you can't really be enslaved for 300 years if you didn't choose that. Now hear me out. There were people who didn't choose that. And you know what they did? They fought. They died. They didn't choose to live in that condition. Now, granted, if these people didn't choose to live in that condition, a lot of people wouldn't be here today. So everything is predicated on a choice. And they chose that so that they can one day realize what we have today, which is not really freedom, but at the same time, it's more freedom than we had then. So when you really look at it, it was a choice. And then everything that goes along with that choice is what we have to recognize. And this is what is called cause and effect. This is one of the principles. These things don't just happen and there's no reaction. There's always a reaction to an action. So if you're going to choose to live in servitude, if you're going to choose not to rebel, if you're going to choose to be scared, if you're going to choose to be spoon-fed what they want to give you, then that's your choice. All of us have to make them. we all have to deal with these choices. Broke, starve, rob, steal, kill, whatever it is that you have to. And I personally don't advocate violence, but I understand when it's necessary. You understand what I'm saying? I think violence is ignorant, but sometimes you have to do that in order to either survive or the survival of yourself, your family. It's excuse me. It's a complex kind of thing. So I get it. You got to make these decisions, and whichever you make, there's going to be repercussions behind it. I used to have a discussion with one of my brothers, another good brother who, steel sharpens steel. He used to say things like, we have free will, and I used to combat him all the time about free will, and then I realized, yeah, we do have free will, and that's the choice. Right? Now, free will means that you can do whatever you want. So that also means that whatever happens, happens. That's what it is. Now, I don't per se deal with good and bad and all of that, because they're religious ways of looking at things. Now, my cousin likes to say that that's dangerous. There's no good and there's no bad. No, what there is a vibratory state. And a vibratory state is the level that you resonate. Truthfully, you can't really look at a person and judge them on what you're seeing, because what you're seeing is not the whole picture. Okay? Now, as far as being good and bad, there's no such thing. And I say that because these terms came from religion. There's a high vibratory state or a low vibratory state. If you're in a high vibratory state, you think is the most high, as my Hebrew family likes to say. Love my Hebrew family, even though I don't agree with, what they deal with. And if they came to the understanding of metaphysics, in which you look at it from a Kabbalistic point, then you wouldn't be into religion. They don't deal with Kabbalah, and they really should, because it would help them understand their doctrine a lot better. That doctrine is to be interpreted, and this is why there's so many divisions and sects within one based religion, like Judaism or Christianity or Islam. There's hundreds to thousands of different sects within one group. So there's so many. There's Shiites, there's Sunnis, there's Sufis, there's all different types. There's Protestants, there's Baptists, there's Methodists, there's agnostic, there's Anglican. It's ridiculous. You all believe in Jesus Christ? What the hell is all the separations? You know why? Because people interpret things the way they want to interpret, and this is how life is. Period. So you don't need technically those books per se, even though they have jewels in them. The stories, the parables, they're to tell you something, and it's the way you interpret what it's telling you. And again, I can prove to you that the principles that are based in spirituality and nature is where they got all of these concepts in the Bible from. Okay? Because these concepts are thousands of years old. They didn't just come around when Christians came about or Jews came about, so-called Jews, because I don't deal with that either. Israel is a place where they just gained a state in 1949 after the end of the Second World War. It was promised to them by us, or not. Let me not say us, by the U.S., who had nothing to do with that strip of land over there called Canaan, Palestine, before it turned to Israel. Okay, so we're not going to get into the Jews and so-called Jews, or I call Zionists. I'm not going to get into that, but we're going to get into choice, because these are the people who actually set up everything to give you these choices. Now, if you look at Kabbalah, if you look at that tree of life and you study that tree of life, you understand how nature was formed and how things came into existence through this sacred geometry, which is encased in that tree of life. It's a code system, just like the Medu Neter in Kemet. It's a code system. So a lot of times we're looking at things from the wrong perspective. But at the same time, when you recognize that the resonation of where you're at in yourself, high vibration, low vibration. High vibration, you think like the Most High. Low vibration, you're a low life. It's not really rocket science. But people do need this understanding because they're too engulfed in religion, and religion has really done a number on the psyche and the psychology of people. So it's my intention to be able to give people something more than what they're seeing. Again, I deal with that meta, which is beyond. So I'm not just dealing with what you're seeing, because there's so many underlying factors. Okay? Now, the brother Macabre was talking about how, we make these choices to do things, and the way that the system is rigged, we're only going to end up in one position if you make the wrong choice. But what is right and what is wrong? Again, I'm not dealing with that. You make the choice of the level of resonation that you're on. If you're going to make that low level choice, then obviously that's where you resonate. If you're going to make that high level choice, then that's where you resonate. And eventually the high level choice is going to pay off. The low level choice, it pays off, but it's in its own way. So don't be upset at the outcome. You can always change it. Everything is subject to change at all times. So when you really understand how we are enslaving ourselves by our choices, and the choices that we're making, they're given to us. A lot of times we're not making our own choices. A lot of times these things are predicated on what we're seeing on television, what somebody else is telling us. Even, the information I'm giving you, it's your choice to take it in or not. This is what it is. We got to start looking at life in a real sense, and not this make-believe God world where you don't do anything and God will provide. Bullshit. If that's the truth, then nobody should be living in poverty. Kids should be dying. Kids shouldn't be starving. None of these things should be happening if God will provide. So who's the God? Who's the God at Christmas time? Who's bringing these kids toys? Santa Claus? Which is a whole other discussion, but we ain't gonna get into Christmas and all of that. We'll wait till we get around closer to that time period to deal with that, because that is insanity. We're actually paying people to keep us enslaved. But whatever. Choices. That's where we're at, right? So with that being said, if you understand your choice, or if you understand what this really is about, then your choices should be different. Okay? I choose to do what I do because it uplifts me, and I would hope that it uplifts others. I choose to educate myself on these things that weren't taught to me, that I had to go and look and search for. I choose that instead of just going to watch Power or going to watch any of these other shows. Not saying that you can't watch them and be entertained. Again, I told you, I like entertainment. I love basketball. I'm a Boston Celtics fan from New York. But real talk, like, I don't just spend my day being entertained. I actually look for information to uplift myself, my family, my people. People are gonna have to go, whether you recognize it or not. People are gonna have to become extinct. Let's just say that. When consciousness raises around the earth, as it did before, the dinosaurs were gone. And these same people who are thinking on this same level, they'll be gone. If you can't raise your vibration to the level of where the earth is raising its vibration, you're done. The prehistoric era. Consciousness raised, the earth's vibration raised, and the animals couldn't maintain, so they became extinct. And the same thing will happen to humans. Why? Because they'll be destroying each other as they're doing now. They'll still be in this destructive mode. Meanwhile, everybody else is raising their vibration. Why? It's called the quickening. Look it up in science. It's called the quickening. Right? So intellect is raising, and you want to still continue to tear each other down, shoot each other, kill each other, rob each other, do all of this nonsense. They don't really have to shoot you in the street. Cops don't have to do that. You don't have to they don't really have to do none of that. You shooting and killing and selling drugs to each other. You doing all of this stuff yourself. You're going to become extinct on your own accord. Really. And it's ridiculous that you don't even see that is the direction that we going in. Contact me at solartransmissions@gmail.com for spiritual classes. Until the next one, peace, love, and light.